program asked me what the basic issue was between Augustinian theology or Reformed theology and historic semi-Pelagianism. I said, I think it comes down to a different understanding of freedom, and of free will. I think the principal problem that people have with divine sovereignty, with divine election, is immediately they say, well, we believe that man has free will. Well, I don't know any Augustinian in all of church history who didn't strongly affirm that we have free will. God has given us minds and hearts, and He's given us wills, and we exercise that will all the time. We choose what we want. We choose freely. Nobody's coercing us, putting a gun to our head, and we're not robots. Robots don't have minds. Robots don't have wills. Robots don't have hearts. We're human beings. We make choices. That's why we're in trouble with God. We're dead in sin and trespasses, even though biologically we're very much alive. And we're walking according to the course of this world, according to the prince of the power of the air, fulfilling the lusts of the flesh, is what the Bible tells us.
God has always been selective. The blessing came through Isaac. Then the blessing came through Jacob. Verse 13, Jacob I loved, Esau I hated. You say, wow. You mean God is that discriminating? Verse 14 then says, and this is what the responder would say, what shall we say then? Is this unjust? There is no injustice with God, is there? Me genoita, the strongest negative in the Greek language. No. This isn't out of character for God to be selective. God never intended every Jew to be in the kingdom. For He says to Moses, verse 15, God says, I'll have mercy on whom I'll have mercy. I'll have compassion on whom I'll have compassion. And it doesn't depend on the man who wills or the man who runs, but on God who has mercy. And then He goes to Pharaoh. For this very purpose I raised you up, to demonstrate my power in you, and that my name might be proclaimed throughout the whole earth. So then He has mercy on whom He desires, and He hardens whom He desires.
From all eternity, God is determined to save a certain number of people from this world, and that He works to bring them to salvation. When I say that to people, they say, that's not fair. This is exactly the objection that the Apostle Paul anticipated in the 9th chapter of Romans when he talks about the doctrine of election and the difference between Jacob and Esau. Jacob have I loved, Esau have I hated. Before they were ever born, before they had done anything, good or evil, that the purposes of God might be made manifest, that God may be glorified. And the immediate objection that Paul anticipates is, there's unrighteousness in God.
How fair, we were asked, is it? How fair and just is it for God to bypass anyone? Folks, salvation is not a matter of fairness and justice. Any person who knows your own heart, you don't want fairness and justice. If God saves everyone, that's one option. God saves no one is another option. Or God saves some. In which one is God free? In which one can God demonstrate His wrath? Evidently, chapter 9 in the inspired scriptures, it is specifically said that God desires to demonstrate His holiness and justice. It is absolutely fair and just that God would judge any fallen son or daughter of Adam. What is not fair or just is that He, in the person of the second person of the Trinity, His Son, would give His life so as to redeem a particular undeserving people. And they're not just undeserving, they are deserving of His wrath. Romans 8 says those who according to the flesh are what? Enemies of God. The real picture, if you want to see the real picture, would be for a king who comes to his castle and he finds that his rebel servants have taken over. They're burning the castle down. They've killed his servants. And yet he sends his son into the burning castle to save some of those rebel sinners. And he has to give his life in the process of so doing. Now you have an idea.